there. Yes, Pfizer, BioNTech's coronavirus vaccines are getting FDA's fast track status. What does that mean for the rest of us there? Joining us right now is a partner in the Intellectual Property Department of Seyfarth Shaw LLP's Washington, D.C. office, Dr. Dean L. Finelli. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Doc.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Look, way back in March, I had this conversation with a couple of people, and they thought I was just crazy. Because I said, look, the only way to get this out there is to somehow get rid of the original red tape and somehow get it through fast to the masses. What does fast track do in comparison to the way it used to be?
Yeah, great question. And, when we think of vaccine development, we're talking about, could be years, over a decade for that matter. Here, the genome of the virus was just announced in January, and fast forward 6 months, we're already talking about getting into phase 3 trials. And what fast track is it basically increases the communication of a company that's developing a vaccine with the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. And to qualify for fast track designation, you have to have a serious condition and address an unmet medical need. And here, that's exactly what we have.
Got it. Okay. So obviously the question is the companies that are kind of on the forefront, and I understand around the world there's a lot of companies trying to do this fast, but what are the inherent dangers of maybe getting it fast done? Are there any, if at all?
Yeah, certainly that's a big issue. And when you think about, side effects, you go to get your seasonal flu vaccine, you get a shot in adulthood, maybe you have injection site pain, maybe you have fatigue, a little muscle soreness. They're non-serious side effects. That's what we're looking for. We haven't seen in these phase 1-2 trials, thank goodness we haven't seen any deaths. There have been some side effects, but nothing severe enough that it would stop these trials. So these trials are moving into the last phase, phase 3 of trials. 3 companies or 3 vaccine candidates are moving to start their phase 3 trials this week, I believe. And that's when we'll see. These phase 3 trials will test tens of thousands of patients. And that's the critical test that we're going to look at to see, hopefully we won't see any major side effects or severe side effects that would stop this. And so far, to answer your question, we're just seeing mild side effects and nothing so severe that we'd stop these studies.
Yeah, and I understand that's an inherent, no matter what drug comes out, no matter what vaccine comes out, once you start with the masses, there's always a small percentage, and you want that percentage as small as possible. At least that's what I've heard pharmaceutical companies look for. Do you know what that percentage is that they look for before they say, oh, it's now dangerous?
Yeah, so there's certainly a risk-benefit analysis that the Food and Drug Administration will do. And here, I think what they're looking for is they're comparing people who receive the vaccine candidate with the placebo, a group of people that receive the placebo. And I think what they're going to be looking for is about 50% increase in the antibody levels over the group that received the placebo. Now, when you're talking about the side effects, certainly they'll weigh the risk-benefit analysis of, what are the most severe side effects. As I mentioned, nothing's been so severe. I read that one patient had hives and had to be removed from the study. So when you start to see more severe side effects like hives and certainly, more severe than that, that's when you stop a study. But here, we're just going to have to wait and see. So far, the studies the phase 1 and phase 2 studies that have tested the dosage and the safety, they've been tested in about 1,000 patients in each of these trials. Typically, you're talking about a phase 1 trial testing about 10 to 20 people. Here, we're moving so quickly in that we're doing these combined phase 1/phase 2 studies where you're looking at safety at all times, you're looking at dosage, and now in this phase 3 study, we're going to start looking at efficacy on a very large scale and continue to monitor safety as well.
So obviously my question is in the testing, and I'm asking this purely for a selfish reason. I just heard a particular close friend, sign up for one of these clinical trials. Out of curiosity, what ages were these? Do you know that actually were in some of these trials already? And if there's a new clinical trial for a different drug, is that what would you recommend your friends to sign up for that? And if so, if they get this vaccine, do they get a portion of the coronavirus, or just makes it so that it could fight that? Because look, I'm just like anybody. I don't know what you know.
Yeah, so certainly when they're doing these studies, initially you're looking at 18 to 55-year-olds. They're a healthy, quote unquote, a healthy group. We've seen that people over the age of 65 are the most at risk. When they do these studies, generally the largest cohort would be in 18 to 55 range. AstraZeneca and Oxford are also, when they move into their studies into phase 3 with their vaccine candidate, I believe they're going to be testing pediatric candidates. And there's also tests being given to older adults as well. But the main group that they're looking at is healthy individuals that would typically, be the least likely to show side effects. And then as we see positive effects, and then they'd expand the trials into pediatric and older adults. And to answer your question, I'll tell you, these people are really heroic. You're putting an experimental drug in the body. Things can go wrong. So your friend that took that drug, kudos. That's a great thing. And all these individuals that are out there that are, being willing to test this vaccine, it's just really they're helping the country and they're helping the globe.
Yeah, I would agree with you, except her hubby has a heart condition. So my question is, if somebody gets this and then they go home, do they potentially run the risk of getting the rest of the family sick?
No. So and certainly anyone that has a pre-existing condition or another condition probably wouldn't fit in that group of people that were tested. But no, the way these typically, when we think about vaccines, we're talking about an inactivated pathogen that's included the vaccine, or a weakened version, or in some types of vaccines, we're using potentially a surface protein, something that's indicative that will elicit an immune response to in this case, coronavirus. So here, these patients don't have a risk. These candidates, and subjects that are in these trials don't have a risk of getting the coronavirus. Other exciting news, we talked earlier about Pfizer and BioNTech. Technology they're using is an RNA-based vaccine, which is, what we've never had an RNA vaccine. So this is really exciting. So no subjects that participate in these trials will not get the coronavirus. But interestingly enough, they are talking about what's called challenge trials, where they inject a subject with a vaccine candidate to see that they elicit this antibody response, immune response, and then actually expose them to the coronavirus to see if the vaccine does work. So they are starting to talk in the U.S. about those trials. The head of the NIH, Francis Collins, just said, let's start that discussion. We're not doing that yet here, but certainly that would definitely speed up some of these results, but it does have its inherent risk.
Well, Doctor, I know we got to let you go. You're on a radio tour. I want to have you back because I got a lot of questions on this. But for those that want more information on this particular fast track status, where can they go?
Yeah, they could go to the CDC website, cdc.gov. They can go to the National Institute of Health website or the FDA website, or even just Google coronavirus vaccine update, and you'll find a lot of studies. There's a lot of candidates that are preclinical moving into the clinic, so there's a lot of information out there.
All right, Dr. Finelli, thank you for spending time with us here on The Morning Show, getting us the 411 on what's happening behind the scenes. Thank you.
My pleasure.